History is about to be made in the science of communication among men. Technicians in Europe prepare to receive a signal from the orbiting TELSTAR satellite that opens this new era. This is the first formal exchange of an official transmission, a beaming of the presidential press conference to the continent, where most of Europe can witness democracy at work. The president has these historic words.
I understand that part of today's press conference is being relayed by the TELSTAR communications satellite to viewers across the Atlantic, and this is another indication of the extraordinary world in which we live. This satellite must be high enough to carry messages from both sides of the world, which is, of course, a very essential requirement for peace, and I think this understanding, which will inevitably come from the speedier communications, is bound to increase the well-being and security of all people here and those across the oceans. So we're glad to participate in this operation developed by private industry, launched by government in admirable cooperation.
It's a family outing in Lewis Bay, Hyannisport for the Kennedys. The president, accompanied by his convalescing father, his brothers, and a full complement of children, relaxes from the cares of Washington with a day on the water. Mrs. Kennedy swims with Astronaut John Glenn, a weekend guest, before they team up to put on an aqua show of their own. The president stays on the sidelines as Mrs. Kennedy and high-flying Glenn practically go into orbit aboard water skis. Mrs. Ethel Kennedy, wife of the Attorney General, is at the controls of the towboat, and she turns on the steam. The astronaut and the First Lady put on a dazzling show, the Hyannisport Watercade of 1962. The gallery at the Aronimink Golf Club near Philadelphia sees the P.G.A. Jinx work against Arnold Palmer, fresh from his British Open win. He has never won the P.G.A., and today rivals like Bob Goalby run far ahead. Goalby is hot on the fourth and final round, and the crowd sees him duel down to the final hole with Gary Player, the South African whiz kid. In this 44th professional golfers' scramble, the crowd is treated to a brand of super golf, along with some heartbreakers. When George Bayer misses a two-footer on the 18th, he has to settle with a tie for third place. There's high drama on the 18th green as Player eases a 35-footer to within 2 feet of the cup. That gives him a short one for a par 4 and the match, unless Bob Goalby could have come up with a birdie from 25 feet out. He's close, but he stays 1 stroke behind. Then the $13,000 putt that makes Player the first non-resident to win this title. He appears overwhelmed as he lifts the ball from the cup. Gary Player, with his card of 278, takes the title by 1 stroke. A storybook finish. The greatest field and track spectacle in the U.S. since the 1932 Olympics, as Russian and American track aces clash. In the women's 100 meters, it's long-legged Wilma Rudolph Ward who streaks away from the field to prove once more she is the fastest woman in the world. 2 from each nation compete in every event, and it's a Russian who runs second. This is the 4th time the Soviets have met with the U.S., and in the men's 100-meter dash, Bob Hayes equals the meet record set in 1958. When Mr. Hayes gets going, the X-15 couldn't catch him. Ralph Boston runs up a record all his own as he beats the Russians for the 4th time with a leap of 26.9. As the U.S. rolls up a handy point lead, Hal Connolly contributes his bit as he sets a world mark in the hammer throw with 231 feet 10 inches. A mighty heave is that. The second day of the 2-day meet sees attendance go over 150,000, and a program of thrills begins with the women's hurdles. The Russians prove too good for the U.S. duo as they run 1-2. Irina Press in Ilya Kuklova spark a Russian victory in the women's field event. But for the first time in 4 years, their margin of victory is narrow. Feature event of the day is the 1,500-meter run, the metric mile, and all eyes are on little Jim Beatty, co-captain of the American team. He's leading in the last lap with victory closer at every step. When need be, the mighty mite has a reserve he seems to turn on at will. Beatty is across to set a new American record as well as a new meet mark. Climax of the meet comes in the high jump. With everyone else out, Russia's Valeri Brumel goes over 7-1, 7-3, and finally 7 feet 5 inches for a new world's record. The high-flying Russian takes a new record home, but the U.S. takes the meet on points.